Everybody wake up.
Time to wake up. Time to start the day. Wake up late with Dougie. He is the only way.
Wake up late.
Now everybody.
Wake up late.
Everybody.
Wake up late.
Wake up.
It's time to
wake up.
Wake up late with Dougie. Wake up late with Dougie. Wake up late with Dougie.
It's time to wake up.
Wake up late with Dougie. What rhymes with Dougie? He's just so funny.
It's the Wake Up Late with Dougie Show. Live from Danger Studios. Chorus praising, now you know.
We're the hottest show in this
Wake up
place.
late. Now everybody.
Wake up late.
Now everybody.
Wake up late.
Now everybody.
I said 1, 2, 3. Everybody wake up.
Live from Danger Studios in Coral Springs, Florida, it's the Wake Up Late with Dougie Show, starring Dougie Almeida. Now, let's start the show.
And everybody, welcome to another edition of the Wake Up Late with Dougie Show. I am Dougie Almeida, back from the exciting Wichita and Tulsa antibody comedy tour I was on, and excited to be back with you guys. And we're excited. We got a great show today. And this whole Zoom thing's great because I don't have to leave the house ever, and it's beautiful. And let's talk about tonight's lineup of comics and professionals and entertainers. First, since I mentioned comic, let me introduce my good friend and comedian Phil Kopsinski is here today.
Hi.
And I brought you on first because I memorized your name. I don't want to screw it up, which is your name's got to be one of the most screwed up names in comedy introduction history.
I want to seem special.
Yes. And of course, broadcaster from ESPN and radio talent, Mr. Dave Lamont is here today.
Good evening. How are you guys?
What's up? And welcome to the show, everybody. This is the Wake Up Late with Dougie Show. We're considering everything that's going on around the world. You do need a good night's sleep, so sleep in. There's nothing you can't catch on the news or on this show. So here we are, guys. And let's start with this. So, Phil, you and I know each other probably, the longest or the more. You and I met at a comedy festival, I'm imagining. Probably the World Series of Comedy was the first one.
Yep.
And the last time we hung out was that we actually shared a hotel room, right?
Yeah, we were roomies. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which is a lot of fun after a few beers and a bunch of fast food. That was.
Now, I imagine because there's a few people. I don't know if I snored that night, but I imagine I probably did. But that was at the Noho Comedy Festival, correct?
It was. Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a lot of drugs. Not that you did any. I'm not suggesting you did any, of course. I'm just saying that at the NoHo Comedy Festival, half the festival is sponsored by legal weed distributors.
Yeah. I've never. If it had been 10 years earlier, I would have had probably 5 years of prison sentence on me at all time, and I didn't even use any of it. I ran into my LA friend the next 2 or 3 days, and then my buddy got into a car wreck. So I was like, hopefully it wasn't because of that elixir I gave you.
Oh my God. So you gave away all your stuff. That's nice.
Yeah. 500 milligrams of like super potent. It was like a 5-hour energy drink, but it was the opposite of that. It was more like a 48-hour Rip Van Winkle thing. Now
I actually do remember that, but my favorite moment of any of that stuff was those edibles that were like Flintstones, like fruity pebbles.
Yeah.
It was the most delicious edible I've ever eaten. As a matter of fact, I was so high from being at the festival and everybody smoking. We did the dope show, right? I don't know if you were did the dope show. Got high as hell doing the dope show. Dave, the dope show is basically go and do like 10 minutes sober, and then you go out and you smoke a big fatty, and then you come back and do like 5 or 7 minutes high. And I smoked mine, and I met Trix on the way back in. And Trix comes out. He goes, "You want to smoke?" I go, "Yeah, why not?" So I smoked even more. And then by the time I got back, I was on stage for a couple minutes. I'm like, I think I got to look at my notes.
I was going to say, do you remember your material at all when you're like that?
I don't remember anything.
It just comes out a lot slower is what happened.
But that was a lot of fun. So that's where we know each other. Dave, you and I met on probably in the studios at the Paul Castronova morning show.
Yeah, that's correct. About a year and a half ago. But I mean, I knew of you, obviously. You've been around this area for a long time, as I have been.
Yeah, and we both shared, like, you're a broadcaster. I love I've always wanted to do that. I've always, if I ever could be doing something else, it would be a broadcaster or a color commentator on the sports, especially soccer, because that's a game I know. And that was a great opportunity for me, because I've been doing this podcast so long, and a couple people are like, you don't get paid to do the podcast. What good is it? And then I get a call from the Podcast Noho show saying, hey, we want you to come in because we need some people sitting in the seats. And
yeah, he's got a good thing going. But at the time, he did love to bring guests in, and that's changed a little bit, unfortunately for me. I haven't been back there in a while, but he's got a great thing going. But he's always had an eye for the local comics, or bringing in big name national comics as well. But he's been a huge supporter of the comedy scene without question.
I haven't been able to see the show much because I'm not getting up much in the morning with this whole this whole quarantine thing. Are they doing it from the studio? Are they all zooming in? Or are they all doing it individually?
Paul at the moment is out of town, but still doing his show. I think the only one that goes in might be Toast, and the producer, and that's it. I imagine that building now is just tumbleweed city at that point. Why bother? Look at what you're able to do here. You've got, first off, I'm hugely envious of all the posters with your face on them. I don't have anything like that. I have a wall with a painting that we bought from like Bed Bath & Beyond back here. That's my set.
And it looks a little crooked, by the way.
Yeah, it does.
That's not, wrong side. That's not me. That is my buddy Joey Medina, although we have been mistaken.
Yeah, it does look like you.
Yeah. And we have been mistaken. Matter of fact, I think we were recently mistaken at a show where somebody thought I said something and he may have said it. So isn't that always great, Phil? You ever get done to a show and somebody comes up to you and says, "Oh, I loved your joke about the wall, whatever," and you're like, "I don't do a joke about that." And you're like, "Oh, that was the other guy." You're like, "Oh, you asshole."
Yeah. Well, all us white guys just all get piled into one.
Oh, look alike.
That's why I have that's why I kept my natural name.
Phil Kopsinski. Now, that is obviously a nice Italian name. Okay. But how often does the MC screw it up?
Oh man, well, not as much anymore because I have like a little. I'm like, I think just break it down to like 3 things. It's like cop, sin, ski. But yeah, if I'm in like a small town, I know if they're gonna screw it up if they're like, oh my god. Yeah, like they haven't seen a lot of things outside of where they're from.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that because that is, and when you host a show, first of all, when you host a show, it's very hard. When you're the hardest to me to this day, the hardest spot on a comedy show is the host, because you got to get up and down a few times. It's a bit aerobic, number one, and number two, you got to remember everybody's names, everybody's intros, and you're not done. Like the easiest spot is the feature, is the opening act. Because they go up, the crowd's already good, the crowd's already warmed up, they're laughing, hopefully. And then you come up and do 25, 30 minutes, whatever it is. That's it. And that's it. And then you walk off stage, you chill out and you're done. Right? The headliner's got a hard job because they gotta show everybody up. They got to close the show. They can't, it's never good if you're a headliner and the person who went before you does much better than you. Right?
Yeah, that's why I love the Canadian system, where they actually the sort of the beginner spot is the middle spot, and the secondary spot is the host. So a lot of times the host is kind of like a beginning headliner. When you get a pay raise, you go from feature to host.
Yeah, and then we were talking about the other day on the show.
A lot of the clubs work.
We were talking about in the show in New York in the old days. You had headliners. Most of in your city, New York and Boston. The strong acts are hosting and closing, and then everybody else in the middle is just, Dude,
that's the way it should be. You should lead the show with a strong act, and not somebody who you just pulled out of an open mic who's like, and it's like their first. Yeah, a lot of clubs make that mistake in the U.S. and it's just like, dude, pay an extra $50, man, and just get someone who's going to crush that first 5 minutes.
That's right. And now, and the good thing about that too, like in Canada, is that they do a lot more time, right? I think that's the way it is. Yeah. The House of Comedy, the Rick Bronson's rooms. I think I was talking to Jimmy Schubert, and he said, "Look, you don't want to feature; you'd rather host."
Yeah, he's right.
Paid, you got to, because I think they do it similarly. Like you do more time when you host, and then you feature.
Yeah, they do the Canadian system because they're based out of Edmonton. Yeah.
Well, see, there you go.
Yeah.
I guess it all makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, Zanies, I think maybe does it that way. I mean, it's just everyone does it a little differently, but it just seems like the standard cheapest MC possible is just a race to the bottom.
Now, Dave, sports are, I mean, we're seeing that somewhat come back, although, it is interesting. Our own home team, the Miami Marlins, have gotten into a lot of, but you as a sports broadcaster, do you feel like you're like a VCR repairman now? Do you feel like there's only so many gigs? Like comics, we don't have so many clubs open. It's got to be, we are like the Whirlpool maintenance man.
We're Jesse White right now, the late Jesse White, who played all those roles. He was, the Maytag repair guy or whatever. It's funny. You guys were talking before the show about you've done some Zoom comedy, and I can't even imagine how you do that if you don't have any kind of feedback, because your feedback obviously is instantaneous. It's not that way when I'm on a broadcast. I don't know what people are thinking, but no, there's nothing out there, and there may not be anything out there. I mean, I'm a college sports guy primarily, and college football is in grave danger. College basketball may start late in January. They may not even play games the first couple of months of the year. Nothing certain about the NFL. You mentioned the Marlins, and now we're just finding out that a few guys may have left the hotel. What is in downtown Atlanta that is apparently worth getting the virus for? Because you had the Lou Williams from the LA Clippers who went there to pick up his Lou Will lemon pepper wings from a strip joint.
Now listen, if you are gonna leave somewhere, if you're gonna break curfew, that is a great excuse where you're going to a strip club to get something on the menu that has your name on it.
And apparently they're quite good. I looked at the website, and they do brag about their chicken wings. And Williams claims that there were no entertainers in the building at the time he was there.
Yeah.
I can't prove him wrong.
Yeah, I don't think strip clubs are open. I mean, I don't go to strip. Phil, you go a lot, don't you? No, I'm like kidding. I wouldn't guess the strip clubs.
The wings, though.
And the strip clubs in Washington State can't be that glamorous.
It's a lot of bush.
They all look like Courtney Love.
It's like 1970s porn up there.
Yeah.
Well, like I just got back from Tulsa, and I can tell you, first of all, listen, I'm just observant. Okay. Don't judge me or anything, but I am observant. But a lot of the women in Tulsa were lesbian. I don't know. Maybe just the women who come to comedy shows are more lesbian. Or not necessarily. It's a general, sampling of the women in Tulsa, but hey, there are a lot of lesbian women in Tulsa, and not a lot of women in good shape.
Well, let me ask how you were able to ascertain their sexuality.
Well, they didn't want my dick. That's
that must have been it. What a dumb question on my part. I'm sorry.
That's right, Dave. They didn't want any of my dick, so they're a lesbian. No, I mean, I don't want to be stereotypical, but they had the looks, and they were women holding hands. They were big women, and you as a sportscast, especially college, they look like they were starting players on a women's baseball, softball team. They look like and good for them. God bless. I'm just making that observation. I'm not saying, hey, that was horrible, but it's one of those places that my wife does not have to worry about me. You know what I mean? It's really, it was really amazing. To have that. But you talk about this sports, like I played college soccer, and I can only imagine I'm about to go to my freshman year or any of my years and go to college, and now it's not. You're like, well, we're probably not going to have a season, because soccer season starts around the same time, the beginning of the year. It's usually the beginning of the college year.
The scary thing is if there's no college football and you lose literally tens of millions of dollars from your budget, then you're going to start to see a lot of sports either get cut permanently or temporarily get cut. And that screws up the men and women who were going to play these sports. And they weren't going to make any money off of it. They were trying to get an education.
Right.
Most college athletes, I mean, the tiny amount of college athletes, you probably fit on the screen the percentage who actually get paid once they leave college. So they need that education. They need that opportunity. We overhype the guys who make the big money. We forget about the third string defensive lineman who's hanging on to that scholarship for dear life because he wants to be an engineer one day and he needs that education. So, yeah, I'm very concerned about what they call the non-revenue or quote unquote Olympic sports surviving if we don't get football.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what's going to happen. And you're right. It's not always, those athletes, the people on the upper, it's even like in comedy, right? Like Phil and I were talking about this. There's still people that are getting gigs. There's still the upper echelon are still getting gigs, for the few clubs that are still open, right? and you're still working, but there's a lot of people that are going to pay a price. And the only thing that we can pray is that there is a vaccine and that this thing is kind of behind us by the end of the year, the beginning of 2021, but even then it's like a year. We were basically taking a year out of it, and what it can happen. Like, think about, like you said, the revenue that football brings to college sports, I mean, to not get that revenue in, I mean,
well, I mean, clubs are going to expect when everything really opens up, they're going to be pulling in the biggest acts they can possibly afford. And it's going to push a lot of guys like me down back to the bars, man. It's going to be a lot of bar runs after this, dude.
You're right. I mean, it is. And I mean, I'm going on the shows I've already booked, I mean, I've got dates lined up through December almost. And I'm just hoping, like, I'm going to be in Vegas in November at Laugh Factory. I'm hoping they'll reopen there. Who knows? But, but have you, as a comic, have you said that? Have you said, you know what? I don't know if this is going to impede my future as a comic, and do I have to make other arrangements?
Well, yeah, pretty much. I mean, because I don't know how you had the vision to book non-canceled gigs, but I have had. I actually had had a club date where I was like, I haven't heard from the producer yet, and I called him. He's like, I'm not even telling people it's canceled anymore. We all just assume. Like, I've had 3 months of work just completely wiped clean, except for like one gig, and it was like I was in New Jersey. It was like all the areas that were as they were closing down. They were closing down right before. Colorado Springs had their first show the week after I was going to be there. Like, I don't know how it all got timed that way, but I mean, I'm looking at it, and it's like to go out and book gigs without fear. I feel like it's going to be well into next year at this point, man. I don't know. Yeah. I have other forms of income. I mean, I never was like, I'm not starving, because I was like, I've always been like, I can't feel mad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But how much does male prostitution really pay, Phil?
Hey, man, pretty good when you got a shiny face like this. And also, I'm out in the woods, so they'll never get caught.
You have sex with Phil in the woods, nobody knows.
I feel like there's buried bodies behind you, Phil. I don't know why, but I feel like somewhere just a little further back, you've got,
Well, hey, there's two types of serial killers. There's the ones that kill prostitutes, and the prostitutes that kill their Johns.
Yeah, I was going to wonder, isn't that a foot back there? It is crazy, but I've talked to a lot of comics in the industry that are not. They're actually having to get jobs. You have to make that call. Like, I can think of a dozen comics I know that either moved to LA or New York in the last year, and you're like, wow, that was a bad idea.
Yeah. I would be, if I lived in either of those cities, I'd be moving out, because why pay the high if you don't have access to those clubs right now? What's the point?
Yeah, you don't want to be there.
And living in those areas. Spokane, Washington, and I'm feeling pretty good about that decision right now.
That's right. You and I talked about this when we were in Noho, like, because you knew people that moved, or actually, instead of being in LA, there's a lot of comics that said, let's just be in Seattle. Yeah. And, wow. Speaking of that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're up in the Northwest, Phil. Is it as bad as the news depicts, that it is just chaos up there?
No, it's not even close, man. Especially when they first were talking about it, it was like a farmer's market.
Yeah. You mean the Chad, right?
Where they're like, Chaz. They were like, the sketchiest thing up here is the street food being sold. I mean, it's but it's funny, once they stopped covering it all the time, that's really when it got bad. That's when you had like gang members moving in and selling drugs and stuff. And they actually went in there and kicked everyone out after like a couple weeks ago. So I think the business owner, that's a nice part of town. That's one of the only places in Seattle before COVID happened that you would actually not see like junkies laying passed out in the street and stuff. Last time I was in Capitol Hill, I was like, wow, this is the first time I've been in Seattle without seeing like needles on the ground. So they went to like one of the nicest spots.
Well, they're smart. They're smart anarchists. Yeah, and Dave, being in the business of broadcasting, that is your main gig, right? Your gig is covering sports. So the phone's not ringing, or what? No. How do you handle that?
No, again, football's up in the air. I have a couple of studio soccer games coming up next month in the United Soccer League, which is the level below MLS. And I've got a little professional bowling gig in August that will be done remotely. Everything's going to be done remotely. In fact, they're sending me equipment to do that. And, football is going to look a lot different. It's going to sound a lot different this year. I'm hearing rumors that announcers may not even be at stadiums. They may be using studios. There are people who may even be broadcasting from home just to avoid, and so who gets to go? Obviously, you need camera personnel there.
Right.
But you don't need any other people. You already are doing a lot of remote broadcasts with the producer and the director sitting in a studio together with everybody else that would normally fill a production truck. So this is, but the other thing is it's cost so many people jobs who freelance game to game. Think of all the people that are needed just to do stats, to keep score, to run small things that you never even think about when you're watching a game that are deeply necessary, and they're just sitting home either collecting unemployment or hopefully have another job, to survive, because we don't know what's going to happen, and things will be very drastically different for at least this year.
Or parents that they can move back in with, you know what I'm saying? It is a crazy thing. Now, I was so glad to see the English Premier League come back. Was interesting when you watch soccer. There's nobody in the stands, but they actually had the audio of fans, which some people didn't like it. Some people rather hear the like, as a soccer player, I like hearing the instructions and the talk between the players. I got into it, but just as a fan, I wanted to, I still watched, NBC Sports and said, I'd rather hear the fans like they're there. You know what I mean? It just brought it back to me a little bit. I don't know. Listen, there's a lot going on with professional sports now, not only with the COVID, but with the racial division, right? A lot of people, putting out the Black Lives Matter. There's going to be no national anthem. People are walking out on it. There's a lot of people that are concerned with the survival of sports with all of that. And I'm of this. I don't care what anybody does, but I don't watch sports to see political statements. I don't listen. If I'm a professional athlete and I carry all that, I'm going to donate. I'm going to do all this stuff. I'm going to help the cause. But as a viewer of sports, the problem is it's divisive, because this. There are going to be people that don't want to see it, don't want to see that, don't care about it. And it's going to affect the game.
I don't know if it will affect the games, but it will affect the image for sure. And there's also pressure on these athletes to make these protests as well. So they're kind of caught in a bit of a vice. There's plenty of people who don't want it and who just want to watch their games. But there's other people like, hey, you have an opportunity here with a stage on you. You're a famous athlete. You need to make a statement while you can. It's great to give money. It's great,
That's bad advice.
That's where these guys are caught.
That's bad advice. I'm telling you, that's bad advice, and it's bad to judge. The big problem is it's bad to judge. Now the person that here's a problem in our society. If you should be able to make that decision for yourself and what you feel comfortable with, without being, berated or without being judged by it. And that's the problem.
No one ever talks about that part of white privilege, is that, like, no one's ever telling white athletes that they got to go and protest. No one's ever go. You know what I mean? Seriously, dude. Like, no one ever is going to Tom Brady like, Brady, you got to go out and help those poor Appalachian children with the people, help your people.
By the way, was that a true story? That was great. But Dave, was that a true story that Tom Brady said that and if anybody on his team at the Jacksonville, what was he playing with again? Tampa Bay. That if anybody kneels during it, he's kicking them off the team or something. Was that?
No, that was a satire site. We've got a couple of those because I click on them, but I always am so suspicious of a website that I've never ever heard of.
Right.
So I click on it, and then I see it's a satire site. And if you read, the problem is a lot of people just look at a headline and they like it and they go, yeah, son of a gun, look at that, bam, I'm of that, and then they don't read the story. And they like how many times have you seen the death of Meadowlark Lemon?
Yeah.
On Facebook, and people, and they put the little sad face. The guy's been dead like 6 years, and I'm telling you now, 3 or 4 times every month somebody posts that Meadowlark Lemon died, and that happens.
That's like on Saturday Night Live. Francisco Marco is still dead.
Generalissimo Francisco Franco is still dead. Yeah, that was an old Chevy Chase bit from the early days.
That was great. Speaking of that, Drew Brees caught a little heat when he basically commented, which I thought was kind of unfair. If you're asked a question, it kind of brings it back to years ago a woman who won Miss America or something was asked about gay marriage, and she said, they asked her, how do you feel about gay marriage? And she said, well, it's against my religion. To me, as I was raised, it was against how, and right there, that should have been it. In other words, here's a person that was raised, whether you believe it or not, that is not the question. They're asked how you feel about it, and she got stripped of her fucking time. There you go, Phil. I just cussed the first time. 25 minutes into it, there goes our Disney sponsor. But
yes, and I work for Disney, so I was just about to line you up too. So you blew it.
He's like, this guy's great. Oh, fuck it. I messed it up again. But but she got striped for her title because she expressed her religious beliefs, and this all began years ago when religions have been a bit demonized. Not that they didn't have any help with all the shit going on with religion, but nevertheless. So I think he was treated unfairly. But I watched Lacrosse. Lacrosse was on yesterday, watching the Lacrosse championships, and I guess his kids are playing, which is a big game. That's a sport that's really starting to move up in popularity.
It's actually, I did some lacrosse for 3 years when I had a team at FAU in Boca Raton. And really, if you get the best professionals, it is a high quality game if it's done right. Yeah, absolutely.
You're right about that. That's a good point, because it's not like you can watch football, right? You can watch baseball, like AAA baseball. You got some great players, right? The depth of that. But if you go into lacrosse from professional to semi-pro, the guys are dropping shit. They look like they're carrying,
Yeah, they don't really know what they're doing. College is also good, and college lacrosse has become a major sport, especially in the Northeast. But as far as Drew Brees, the funny thing about Drew Brees is he's done a tremendous amount of good for New Orleans post-hurricane. I mean, he came there, he signed there. He could have signed in Miami. He didn't do it, or they could have signed him. And he has done a lot. But unfortunately now, Dougie, if you speak out in today's Insta analysis era, you're going to get it from one side or the other.
Right.
It's very, very difficult to keep everybody happy, whether you're an athlete or an entertainer or a politician. It doesn't matter. If you speak out, you're going to get it from somewhere, whether you deserve it or not.
Too many people ready to rip you apart. I made a post today about the hearings with Attorney General Barr. I lost 4 friends, and basically it was just like that. It's like, and these, but then Phil, like you
with it anymore, Dougie. I'm sorry. It was time for me to finally get ready.
Yeah, asshole. Thank you. But listen, that happens. You lose friends. It's, comics and stuff. But my wife was even telling me, it's like, why do you even give a shit except for your real friends in comedy? Why do you have friends that are on your Facebook page that are comics that you don't know? They don't help me. They don't help my bit. I mean, I book shows, I produce shows, so it helps them to get to know me, right? That's why a lot of them end up friending me. But I'm like, you're right. If I'm not friends with the comic, why am I friends with them on Facebook? They're not like sharing my shows. They're not like helping me in my promotions and stuff, So if they don't like my political stance and they unfriend me, I could give a shit. But I don't really care to do it. You're right, David. That's what happens. You speak up, then people just, the social justice warriors just rip you apart.
And it doesn't matter what side you're on. It goes right rips left, left rips right. And if it's almost as if you don't do it, there's something wrong with you.
Right.
If you just ignore it and go, well, Dougie just said that. Okay, well, I don't agree with it, but so what? That's Dougie's opinion. He's entitled to it. People just that civility has just disappeared.
Well, I even saw this in the comedy. Phil, you tell me if you didn't see this, but I had comic friends of mine, black comics, friends of mine that were posting. If you haven't posted anything,
right,
for Black
silence is violence.
Yeah, like if you didn't say nothing, we're just going to assume you're a honky ass, right?
Maybe I have a comic friend of mine that was doing very well before this hit was like, listen, man, I'm delivering groceries right now. And I was making a 6-figure income doing comedy a few months ago. So maybe I just don't have time for your bullshit right now. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
So that you're right. So what do you think, Dave? Do we think baseball will survive? Do you think this is just the Miami Marlins, which are doomed since they won?
Have they canceled more games than they're? Yeah. They've canceled more games they've played at this point, haven't they?
They have. They're not due to play again until next week. They're making this the longest rainout in the history of baseball. And the Phillies are also now being put on ice. So they basically suspended those 2 seasons. Meantime, I was on the phone with my best friend who just had surgery. He lives in Cleveland, and he was watching the first game of a doubleheader between Cleveland and the White Sox. So the idea, I guess, is that Major League Baseball has decided as long as it's not anywhere else, would it really be smart to stop a game in Oakland, where they were playing yesterday, or San Diego, if you're having a problem in Philly? I know the virus goes airborne. It doesn't go that fast.
Yeah.
So
people are a bit ridiculous about that.
Well, I understand you want competitive balance. I'm all for that. And if you can somehow make these games up and treat them as if they were rainouts in the scheduling sense only, then let's go ahead and keep fighting and see what we can squeeze out of this. The mistake they made was not going into a bubble in maybe 3 or 4 cities, using minor league facilities and a major league facility, and doing it the way that is working with Major League Soccer. Good news early on the NHL, and largely good news on the NBA.
Why don't you explain that to us, what the bubble is? I mean, the idea of it, because baseball, they're playing in everybody's home parks,
right?
Like there's just no fans. That's their solution. Where in Major League Soccer, they're all in Orlando, right? They're playing. They have their own
playing at Disney, and so the NBA is playing at Disney, and the NBA setup for Disney is great. You've got those buildings there that you could do 3 or 4 courts at a time. So you can play a game in one court, clean that whole area up. In the meantime, you have another game literally across the road, not even across the road, across the sidewalk in another building where you could play. Clean all of that up. You keep the players isolated in the same hotel. You require them wearing masks. You limit the amount of people. Once you're in there, you're in there. So if you're a reporter, you're in there for 8 weeks. Wow. You're not going home. You're not going out. You're getting food brought to you. You're staying in these same hotels. It's the only way to do it. And so far, and the season starts in 2 days. We've had exhibition games, no trouble. Major League Soccer, this many positive tests. Nothing. Wow. While they're doing their tournament. Now, if they break out and they start having games in home parks, we'll see what happens. The WNBA, the women are doing the same thing down in Bradenton at the IMG Academy. They're trying the same thing. It's working.
No one watches. No one watches women basketball, Dave. Sorry.
Well, yeah. I'm just trying to point out that they're trying to bubble system also. In the NHL, where are they? In Edmonton? Not in Edmonton. Toronto kicked them out, but the NHL has gone, and so far their first round of testing, bupkis. That's the bubble in a sense. You don't get to leave. You don't get to go home. Limited amount of people are actually there. But if you really love your game, then you're going to do this.
Now, are they able to bring their, I'm sorry to interrupt, but are they able to bring in their family?
Not right away. No, I that was the biggest contention with baseball players. They were very concerned about bringing in, wives, children, or maybe parents. And they said, no, you can't do that. And so that's why MLB, their union, went against the bubble idea. And it looks like that's biting them back.
Wow. Well, let's see what happens. If, like you said, if a team can't field a team, then they have to forfeit their games, and that's it. If they can't pick up the games, then they're out.
But you can go to your expanded 60-player roster and basically scrap together the Cleveland team from Major League and throw them out there.
I got you. Like you use your farm system, and you just try to, and that's good experience. So you may not win a pennant
or a game,
or a game, but you may not even get a hit. But see, and then you don't care. I mean, you want stuff like that. I was watching when I was at the airport. I was watching a game. It was funny to see the cardboard cutouts of people. That was kind of cute, and that kind of thing. Well, we spent a lot of time on the sports, folks. But let's just jump to the kids going to school and kind of tighten up. Phil, your wife is a teacher, right?
Yeah. Well, she's a teacher by trade, and now she spent the last 5 years working in a virtual learning program for the public schools, getting that started. So she just got out of that, and it is in the nick of time because, dude, that they're like going from kids like the entire state, it's nuts. I don't know, man. I don't know if I think the kids in rural areas need to get back to school, but I don't know. I haven't been to a city for 5 months. I don't know what cities are like.
Yeah, look at you.
I'm out in the sticks, dude. I have no idea what's going on.
Well, listen, it's interesting because I watch people talk about this and they said, how dare you? People are so they use this incredible verbiage like, oh, you're going to send the kids to die. And, oh my God, would you lighten up on the drama? First of all, children are very elementary school kids should go. You know what I mean? I don't see why they can't have elementary kids because they have like an armor suit when it comes to their ability to shake this shit off. Middle school kids, they're going to be able to get on the computer more often. But let me tell you something. You talk about a divide. You talk about an intellectual divide. You're going to see that, if anything, because of this year. You are going to see a generation of kids learn to quit, learn to say, hell no, I'm not going to do it. And especially if their parents are like, I'm not sending my kid to get, and that you are going to see this. It's almost like during the Great Depression. There were people that were hopeless, and there was people that were hopeful. And I think this is just going to do the same thing. And it's not fair, there's so many problems with it. Parents that aren't around because they're trying to work to teach and trying to have a parent teach, and not only that, try to have a parent teach their own kid. You know what I mean? It's like, there's so many levels of problems with it. And one of my mentors says to me, he says, well, if it's 1 year, it's a setback. It's like a pause. It's like you have to reboot the thing in a year. And, and I always tell my friends, and I do a lot of fundamental research with these pharmaceutical and biotech companies. This Project Warp Speed is working, and you will see some sort of, if not, treatment to this thing, some sort of a vaccine, one way or the other soon, to get people back to normal. So let's see what happens.
Well, the other issue is, though, you mentioned the kids, but what about the teachers? That's the part that I think you have to be scared of, because they are, some of them are older people and they're going to be more vulnerable. The big controversy here, Dougie, and I know you've been out of town, but it's been a battle back and forth with the school board. And right now, I think they're going to go virtual for the time being. There's grave concerns about one teacher getting sick and possibly spreading that around. How do you, is everybody going to be in the same room? I'll give you an example now. I've done some part-time teaching down at a private school about a mile from here. Have been doing it for 10 years. It's a broadcasting thing. I enjoy it. They're fully ready to go, but they can afford to take extra measures. They're defogging hallways. They're changing bell schedules to allow more time for students. They're moving things around. They can afford it. They've taken furniture out of classrooms. Every classroom has a camera. So if you opt out of showing up, if your parents or you decide, you know what, I'm going to wait, you can still learn. But the issue has always been, how effective is that? And what if you're a teacher, what if you're a parent with young children and you're trying to work, like you said, Dougie, that's the other nightmare. I'm an empty nester. I don't have to worry about this crap. But I do wonder about the people with younger kids and how they're getting their education.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you are a teacher, listen, like anything, you have to make a personal decision. And eventually that's where government aid should come. It's to those people that are in danger, that can't work, that are in a position where no matter what they try to do, they're unable to do. As opposed to somebody's like, I'm going to sit home and collect my $600 check. You know what I mean? And they can go work if they want. So for those people, but to keep a distance from the kids, the teachers, I don't see that. The issue is with the kids, when they're walking through classes and the mingling and all that stuff. But elementary school kids should go to school. I believe that. I don't think these kids are going to, and you know what, if you're an 88-year-old elementary school teacher, you should probably retire anyway. God damn it. Let's face it, go bag. No one wants you as teaching. They want a hot teacher so they can bang them in middle school. So,
well, dude, there is a little bit of hypocrisy with some teachers where it's like, how are you? Warehouse workers, truckers, gas station workers, they've been to work the whole time, man.
Right.
Like, I feel like teachers are probably more essential than pushing open bars before schools right now. It just seems like a backwards ass thing.
I think it could be done. I think, like you said, I think spacing and alternate schedules and you know what, even mixing it up. Like, okay, like college, instead of going to school Monday through Friday, you go to college Monday, Wednesday, Friday,
Yeah,
there's been some talk of that. Yeah.
Yeah. They got to be creative. That's the thing I always get when people get lazy and they don't use that and it's all batter and I'm right, you're wrong. It's just ridiculous. Get some compromise. So let's see what happens with the kids.
Well, my 13-year-old hasn't seen a friend since March. That's depressing. Like that's the best time to see your friends. I hate hanging out with my friends. They all got stupid problems. I don't want to listen to their problems. 13 is the prime age.
Yeah, but when you're a kid, you hang out with friends, you play things like Truth or Dare. That's a lot of fun.
Yes, they're missing out on all that.
Think about that. Think about a kid who doesn't get to play Truth or Dare. Doesn't get to see the opposite sex body part. Until they see it in a magazine.
What's a magazine?
Leave the comedy to us, Dave, please. Okay. Do the podcasting. God dang it. Can't be funny.
I lost my virginity on Zoom.
Right? I got my first hickey on Zoom. God dang it! But it is a real problem for the kid. I really feel like we were talking about it earlier. I really feel bad for the college athletes that trained for the season and got ready. I mean, it's just heartbreaking to know that. The only thing that's somewhat comforting is you hope, okay, well, hopefully next year, but that pushes everything back. You know what I mean? Well, now am I redshirted? Do I have eligibility? All these other questions open up. And I mean, I guess you wouldn't, right? I mean, Dave, you would actually have, if you're an athlete in college, you would say redshirt me this year.
You can take that option, but if you have no sport, what if you used up that eligibility? And I can give you a perfect example. That bedroom right over there belongs to my youngest son, who's now a junior, just started at the University of Wyoming to play college basketball his final 2 years. He had to use a redshirt year after he transferred from his first school and then played junior college ball. So his redshirt year is gone, and there's a very good chance he won't get a full season this year.
Right.
Hopefully he'll be able to get at least, say, January to March, and we can actually have an NCAA tournament. That's my hope. And so he loses time off of a career that doesn't have much left. And if you've used up that redshirt year, which a lot of guys do, very rarely do athletes go 4 straight through in any sport.
I think with all the pain that individuals are feeling in their own circumstances and stuff, people need to start relaxing and worrying about I think, if anything, that's what we really need to do. We stop worrying about other people. There's so much drama. There's so much nonsense that each family has to deal with, right? Like my wife and I, it's just us. Her daughter's a nurse. My stepdaughter's a nurse. She's she's working. My wife is a hairdresser, so she was out of work for a while. I'm fortunate, whereas, as a financial advisor, I can work from anywhere, any room with my computer and a phone. So I'm not locked in, and, I'm blessed that I don't have to go see people. It's amazing, but these are the things you have to consider. You have to, when you're in college, you got to think, oh, what am I going to study? What am I going to major? You better start thinking about this kind of stuff.
I was Dave. Maybe I have a question about how did the recruiting go for high schoolers this year?
Drastically, just like what we're looking at right now. Everything was first off, high school doesn't have the weight it used to in basketball. There's a lot of this AAU stuff and these travel teams that has a lot of weight, but a lot of these events canceled. Coaches also weren't allowed to travel. So everything was virtual. He was showing me videos that he would get on his phone. Somebody would send photos of their training facilities. This is what our arena looks like. This is what this looks like. A lot of phone calls, a lot more text than usual. He got one offer from another school in a format exactly like this right now. Everybody up in little screens, and then they show us things. That's what recruiting has come to at the moment. The in-person visits are out. The parent coming up for the weekend to take a look around, all that stuff. Because I had an older son who went through this, is a little older. He played college basketball also. And we did all of that. We got to do the visits and all that. And it's a blast. It's an absolute blast. But no, you can't do any of that right now. That's off the table, and will be probably for the rest of the year, if not longer.
Wow. I remember visiting colleges when I was playing soccer. And I remember visiting a little school in St. Augustine that I ended up going to, Flagler College.
Yeah.
And I remember hanging out with my buddy, and we went into town, and we went to my buddy, his buddy Smokey's house. And you could figure out what Smokey got his nickname from. But we got high as hell that night, and then I had to try out the next morning.
Ooh.
And oddly enough, I got a scholarship. I couldn't believe it. It wasn't as much as I'd hoped, of course. At any rate, well, listen, let's hope that this works out. I miss sports. I love watching sports. Again, soccer's my game. And it was good to see the English Premier League come back. And the NAS, I'm good to say the MSL.
MLS is rolling,
MLS,
and the United Soccer League is doing well too.
Yeah, that's a nice farm system that's growing. So, the last thing I was going to talk about was Congressman Ted Yoho from Florida calling Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez a fucking bitch. Or allegedly, I should say, because no one's actually come out and said they heard him say that. He ended up apologizing or something, but it's interesting. I don't even care. It's the thing I was thinking about. I don't even know if I want to talk. Like, are you an AOC fan, Dave?
I find her very intriguing.
Really?
Yeah, because she might be the new wave of what this thing turns into after we're in the grave.
I mean, a bunch of posers that act like they know what they're doing, and then
I don't know. I mean, listen, whoever votes her in, seems to be happy because she's probably going to get elected again if it comes up again. Just the youth, I think. Yeah. You know, if we're complaining that everybody is too old who's running, then at least on the other end of it, we find somebody who's got youthful ideas as opposed to, you know, that. So I'm okay with that. I don't, you know, if he actually said that, then that just proved my point earlier about how decorum and civility has just been absolutely erased.
Yeah.
You know, that's, we do like to expect that there's some level of decorum in that group of people. And if you want to really rip somebody, you know, you got offices, you can go in there and just let somebody have it and not do it on the steps where somebody may or may not have heard it.
I agree with that. I'll agree with that in the sense that that person should know better. In other words, as much as I don't care for her and I think she's a poser and when she talks, it's just amazing. It's just a, you know, when I watch somebody talking, there's not a lot behind it. I just get, but for that guy to do it and not compose himself, you know, pretty rookie move there. Pretty rookie move.
Extremely rookie.
I mean, to me, I'm like, it feels like a welcome to politics kind of a move for her. I feel like it's always been this, but I mean, Sarah Palin and Hillary Clinton both have been depicted with like their face on like a BDSM thing. And I mean, you know, I don't know. I just feel like she is playing it. This, to me, what she's doing with it is the most savvy political thing she's done since she's been in office.
Yeah. A lot of people liked her speech, you know, in Congress and pointed out.
I mean, if I don't know, if saying like, I mean, calling someone a fucking bitch, I don't know, to me, like that's not the craziest thing that could happen. I guess I feel like that's to call her a victim because she got called a fucking bitch. Just, I mean, that's like her and the, you know, person that got pulled into a van and raped to death. Like they're both victims. How are they both in the victim category? And if calling someone a fucking bitch, then I am a person who victimizes my son because that's how I get him to take out the fucking bitch, take out the garbage.
How's that work?
He takes out the garbage, my man.
Otherwise, you're going out to the woods behind Daddy. Is that?
Yeah. No, you used to have an older brother, buddy.
Yeah, you know where he is.
Why do you think these trees are growing so high?
That's hilarious. Well, thanks for sharing, guys. Today's word of the day, by the way, is equanimity. I'd imagine a gentleman like Dave would know that word.
I do, and I wish I practiced it every time I play golf.
Yes. And Phil, are you familiar with the word equanimity?
This is I mean, no. So this is not. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the education.
I'll be honest with you. When I was looking through the word and I read it, and I, you know, kind of, I don't use it. It's not like it's part of my daily, but basically the definition of it is mental calmness, composure, and evenness of temper, which I think we all need right now. You know, everybody needs to settle down and don't be so quick to judge. You know, let's take it easy, take a breath, take it in, realize people are just trying to go through. That's the big thing about this whole pandemic thing, the judging, you know, from the politicians to everybody. This is an unprecedented moment. And like in sports, Dave, like when you're on a team that's losing, everybody's busting their ass. You don't know what the outcome's going to be. You're just trying your best. And to point out somebody, unless somebody really screws up, you know, you're all just trying to do your best in a moment of time where you're not sure. So let's have a little equanimity here, folks. And by the way, Brad, if we're ready, it's time. That part's our time of the day where we're going to have our joke right. Right, if you guys are aware of this, but this is where comics compete for top prizes of an array of truly worthless stuff, items, but more importantly, the honor to say they have won something in this day and age. All guests are challenged to write some sort of joke amidst the stories that we have provided here on our headlines today. And by the way, this our prize today is a used couch from the University of Wyoming. By the way, Dave.
Awesome. I thought it was West Virginia. They used to burn them until they got so angry at the image that they stopped doing it.
Yeah, it is a used couch from the University of Wyoming dorm and a year's supply of black licorice to our winners. So
used or new?
Licorice?
Yeah.
It's in the couch cushions.
You get a year's supply, whatever you could find in the couch, by the way. So it's that time for Joke Right. Brad?
It's a joke, right?
All right. So, you know what? Don't worry about queuing any other stories, but these are our stories, folks. You don't have to, guys, you don't have to write a joke for every story, but if you can come up with a quip, it doesn't have to be a long joke. It could be a quick little, it could be a comment. It could be a giggle. You can just go, holy shit, that was the funniest thing we said the whole fucking, all right. So here's our first story, which was interesting. I'm sure you all heard this story, but a couple banned by Walmart after wearing Nazi flag face masks.
It's a joke, right?
Marshall, Minnesota store. A couple wearing, how do you say it?
Well, I guess it was cloth coverings, right? Or a mask of a swastika?
Yeah, it was a face mask with a swastika on it. A couple who wore a Nazi flag face coverings to a Walmart in Marshall, Minnesota have been told not to return. Police say the couple has been issued trespass notices. Officials said that they are banned from visiting any Walmart facility for at least a year. What are we going to do?
In Marshall, I don't know. That might be it.
That's it. Where else are you going to go? Target? There's no Target in Marshall.
Yeah, but Target's based in Minnesota. You might have a shot there.
Well, I like Target. I think Target is a nice store.
The only quip I thought of before I let a professional do it is this might be Jeff Foxworthy's new tour. You might be a Nazi if, and just see how he does with that.
Hey, let's hear it for the broadcaster. That was a good effort.
Yeah.
I have a better one, but Walmart could be a sponsor on Disney and programming, and I'm not going to go with that one. I'll write you that one and send it to you later.
I was going to say that'd be great because I can imagine see that quoted as you're about to get that gig.
Yeah, not going to go there.
It would be on the show if it wasn't for this. But there's a Wake Up Late with Dougie show quote. It's like when they quote Joe Rogan, when they had Elon Musk smoking weed on Joe Rogan moment. Phil, what do you think about how, would you feel like if I was in Walmart and I saw a person wearing a swastika mask?
I think Walmart totally blew it. They should have hired him to be social distance advocates, because when you hail Hitler, you are actually creating a nice distance from the other person. Yeah, exactly. I think they blew it. These guys could have been setting the standard for how far people need to be apart.
That's what seg-heeled means. 6 feet, fucker.
Yeah.
Everybody misinterpreted Hitler, but it was like 6 feet, fucker.
Yeah.
Very good. See, that's the way. Well, congratulations, gentlemen. But I think Phil, I'll give you that one on that joke. So good for you. But yeah, they can't shop there anymore. And you know what? If I saw that, I would have to give the person one of these looks like, I'm not going to say, why would I don't want to say anything. You don't want to say anything to a person wearing a Nazi, face mask. You know what I mean? I'm going to hold back. There's no reason. It's like on Facebook. Do I want to post this? Do I want to make this political post on Facebook? Well, that's good. You got it. There you go. Our next story, Filipino President Duarte suggests disinfecting masks with gasoline. He quickly corrected his misquote. Duarte, the guy who runs the Philippines, like he had a big drug war. Like he was trying to cast out all the drug addicts and everything in there. But he basically told everybody, if you want to have a clean mask, wipe it with gasoline and then light a cigarette.
Well, it would be your last, that's for sure. Great way to quit smoking, I suppose.
I'm going to do my impression of Michael Jackson.
Well, it's a nice way to wean off the airplane glue that all the orphan kids are huffing in the Philippines.
I wasn't aware there was a problem there.
Well, there wasn't, man. They died. They died and the problem got solved. This was in the 90s. I don't know if that's just something they told me in Dare to keep me from doing it, but didn't work.
Wait a minute. Let me get this straight, Phil. So you pulled out from this story some sort of memory you had from Dare when you were a kid about in the Philippines, how they're sniffing.
Yeah, they were like, these urchins are snuffing airplane glue in the Philippines. Don't let it reach here. And then me and my buddies were like, we got to get some airplane glue.
Holy shit! Let's go get a model.
Right. That's what it was. But in my head, I'm like,
yeah, that's crazy shit.
Glue airplane.
Yeah. At the end of the day, hang the mask somewhere and spray it with Lysol if you can afford it. That's the real thing he wanted to say. Yeah. So
you can't afford is Lysol cheaper, is more expensive than gasoline then in the Philippines?
Well, you couldn't get any Lysol spray here. Remember when that was, remember you were trying to make toilet paper? Like, remember the beginning stages of stuff, toilet paper? I mean, thank God. I love my wife. If you would think that we were getting ready for doomsday ever since we got Costco memberships, because we got pallets of water, pallets of toilet paper all the time. My wife's amazing. I gotta give her a raise. When I say raise, I gotta bang her after the show. I thought you'd all share that. Our next story: police responding to loose panther report finds a stuffed toy. I thought when they said loose panther, they were talking about Ukulele from the Florida Panthers. I'm trying to remember that guy's name. He was stuck in there. But a report of large apex predator in the Stenning areas in Britain, by the way, turned out to be true. It may be a stuffed toy, but there was a predator. So somebody calls the police thinking it's a panther, a black panther. It.
Right.
Not the guy from Marvel.
Not the guy from To Catch a Predator.
To Catch a Predator.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think this happened in Britain, didn't it?
Yes. Is that
it? That's how afraid white people are. White people will mess with tigers, but if they see anything representing a powerful black man, they will immediately call the cops, and it's disgusting, frankly. It was an unarmed tiger. It stuffed or not, it didn't even have a gun. But you look at like the gayest dude wrestling a tiger, and you never. How come you never see like anyone with a jaguar or a black panther at those shows? Are they that scary?
So what you were saying is this was a stuffed lion. One of the British guys. Oh, I want to take care of that fucking lion.
It'd be the guy in the tightest pants. They'd be like, "Who's blowing the most guys? It's your job."
But they saw it was a panther, and they thought, "Oh no, I don't. Black Lives Matter and everything. I'm not going to get.
I don't want to get into this mess.
Yeah, I don't want to touch that guy. Call the police. Let them get her fired."
Yeah, and then they beat the. She's stuck.
That's great. Our next story: cash obsessed kitten twice attempts to steal money from a bar in Russia. Now you have to. This is a video. If you got to look it up, there's a kitten. Like you guys have seen the videos of those people stealing from tip jars.
Sure.
Yeah.
Are those?
I've apologized for it many times.
Isn't that the guy from ESPN?
What does he do? Every time he goes into Starbucks, he walks out with more money. Why?
Yeah, my chocolate vanilla smoosh only cost me. Actually, I made $5 every time I go.
Exactly. I'm turning a profit.
While we're on it, you a Starbucks man or Dunkin' Donuts?
Starbucks.
Really, Phil?
I'm in the Pacific Northwest, man. I'm Starbucks. We don't even have Dunkin' Donuts. If I'm in like East Coast, I do Dunkin' Donuts just for the novelty.
I got to tell you, the coffee I loved when I was there were Dutch Brothers.
Oh, dude, that is such a sugar bomb, man.
I love Dutch Brothers. And
by the way, they're good.
They're tasty. Dave, Lamont, have you ever had Dutch Brothers coffee in the Northwest?
No, I was in Seattle last year for a few days, and I went to that massive Starbucks, that's downtown. But no, I've never heard of that one.
It is like he said, it's a food, more of a. It's like it was delicious. That's all I'm going to say. Okay. But when I get Starbucks, I get the white chocolate mocha.
Oh,
that's usually one I get. So that's kind of a sugary drink. But the Dutch Brothers, if you're ever in the Northwest and you're there, your first one is free. If you've never had a Dutch Brothers, they will give you it free. So when I was there last time, I had 18 free cups of coffee. And of course, I got the big, this is my first time here. Is it really? Thanks. So a cash obsessed kitten twice attempts to steal money from the bar. Well, that isn't the first time I gave all my money to pussy. I mean, I could have reworded it or something.
I was going to make a joke using pussy, but I thought that's too hack.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
So here, this is the joke, and I'm going to apologize. I'm sorry about this dumb thing I'm about to say, but I felt so. I said she needed money for her purse. I'm gonna leave now. I'll see you guys later. I'm out. I'm gonna go bury myself.
Go bury yourself in the woods.
Bury yourself in the woods next to the dead body.
No,
Dig your own grave.
He ends up calling me a hack, and then he says that.
The only thing missing
that's.
Phil, the only thing missing was the David Caruso sunglasses. If you just paused long enough and gone for hers and put the sunglasses on and walked away.
And then play Who.
Exactly.
But I think for wordplay, I'll give you that one because, cash obsessed kitten twice attempts to steal. That's just like it's like all pussy looking for money. All right, good one. All right, our next our next story. In Sweden, female priests now outnumber male ones. Well, I guess the altar boys should feel safe.
Or lonely. Dougie, how long have you lived here?
You mean in the States or Florida?
South Florida.
Long time. 30 years, something like that. 30-something years.
30 years. All right. Did you remember a theater on Federal Highway in Pompano Beach?
A theater?
An adult theater. There was actually a theater it was an adult theater that showed first-run adult movies, way before ahead of the video craze that helped that industry.
All right, it was in Pompano, where more or less?
North of Atlantic. It's not there anymore, obviously. But I was going to say, I think I saw that movie, Swedish Female Priest, as the first run.
It's funny. I will share this with you, Dave. You've been in Florida a long time. Do you remember there used to be a hotel on Federal Highway near Oakland Park called the Bonsoir?
Absolutely. They had the heart-shaped beds and the whirlpools. I'm sure they were clean.
Yes. COVID and that. Phil, this hotel, I took my girlfriends there a couple different times. And each of those times I had my record for the most bangs for the buck.
Fisting? What is it?
Yeah, I'm punching.
That apparently is.
Yeah, I had the record for the most. Yeah,
that's his gesture. I can just see him going up.
Are you dating a hand puppet? What happened to you?
The most times I actually reached that level climate. The most times I ever came in one night, 14.
What?
Yes, 14 times. That's still my record from the Bonsoir Hotel. It had back then. It had had a TV, regular tube TV. This is a long time ago, with 24 hours of porn. It never stopped. It just kept going. There was mirrors on the ceiling, mirrors on the walls, and some of the rooms had bathtubs, like hot tubs and shit like that. So I'd go there at you check in at 10 o'clock, leave the next day, and the sheets were never the same. So, great place. Did you ever go there, Dave?
No, never had the occasion. Never had the occasion to get out there and, do one for the old team.
Do work.
Yeah. You were alone or 14 or?
No, I had my girlfriend. Now, mind you, this was the girlfriend I had that liked to have that became bi in the end of our relationship. Like
congratulations.
She was very explorative. She loved having a lot of fun. God bless her. She's passed.
Were you drinking a lot of celery juice? I mean, the logistics of that 14 times, it doesn't seem, man, that's crazy.
I think I was 17 or something at the time.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's okay.
Wasn't like last week, dude.
All right. Yeah, no, even in 20. Okay. That helps.
I mean, listen, I could barely get one anymore. One. All right. So anyway,
I do want jokes, and I haven't been able to tell jokes for 4 months. Let me give you my Swedish one.
Okay.
Because I think it's a good move by the church and the parishioners, because now they can pay those priests 30% less.
They are.
Yeah, they can save money.
That's right.
They are getting paid less.
Yes.
Serious?
Yes.
Isn't that a standard thing?
I actually read the story.
Oh my God.
They are getting paid less.
Yeah. Well, everyone handles a budget crisis differently.
Yeah, there you go. However, the wage gap between the male and the female pastors averaging 2,200 Swedish kroner, which is about $248 US dollars or 215 euros per month. So there you go. But every time I think of Swedish women, I think hot blondes.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And the attendance at church has picked up quite a bit. Especially by horny teenagers. Mom, can we go to church again?
Yeah, the most disappointed altar boys. I was promised a molesting.
No one's touching me. I'm trying to get back to my Swedish because I've had Swedish guys I've played soccer with. Yeah, because I want to go with you to church, Mom. Oh, yeah, it's horrible. I'm no Rich Little. Our last story: Florida man receives $3.9 million in COVID-19 relief funds, buys a Lamborghini, and gets arrested for fraud. You know, this is the biggest problem with this whole COVID relief was like the PPP, and you knew there was going to be people taking advantage of the system. You know, the people. It was just, but what are you going to do? You know, hopefully they can catch them. And I mean, the country sent out $1.5 billion to dead people for that $1,200 check everybody got. They sent $1.2 billion or something like that to dead people, which is ridiculous. But a Florida man receives $3.9 million in COVID-19 relief funds, buys a Lamborghini, and gets arrested for fraud. But oddly enough, marries a priest from Sweden.
Male or female?
It was a female, and he got 35% less gifts at the wedding shower or wedding party. Yeah, the Florida man been charged with fraud. Thank God. At least he got caught. You know what I mean? When people do this kind of shit, they try to defraud the system. When they get caught, good. You know, because you'd hate to see all that money go to waste. You know,
man, I feel bad about it. I mean, guys like this make me so mad because he got away with it. Like he got the money,
right?
And how do if you make a transaction over $10,000, it's going to get, you know, why would you not just wait a year, you know, or wait a while to do it? I don't know. I hate this guy because I can imagine being this guy. And I mean, if I had the opportunity to defraud the government at $3.9 million, I would absolutely do it. I'm not going to leave. If I thought I had that opportunity, I would totally do it. I mean,
but you're right. You wouldn't. It's like it's like the old mob days when you get that money, you rob a bank. You don't go buy a new car. You got to stay. You got to keep it. You know, got to keep it quiet. You know, he buys a Lamborghini. Hey Bill, weren't you like selling hot dogs on the street corner last week? How the fuck?
Yeah, they were suspicious when he traded in his Vega for the Lambo, and then they realized this guy might be a fraud.
How much more do I need after I give you my 1993 Chevy Chevette? AMC Pacer. But oddly enough, he had sex with a lot of women that week he was on the road. But he didn't beat my record. 14 times, baby.
He didn't have sex with any sock puppets.
No, not at him. Not at all. Well, that's it, folks. You know, I think I can honestly say our winner for today of the Great Joke Ride contest is Phil Kopsinski. And not that Dave didn't put a good effort in there, because I'll be honest with you, Dave, I was nervous as a broadcaster. Dave's like, but he, you know, listen, that's why you're on the Paul. That's why you're on the Paul Cashinova show, is that humor, you know, that dry humor, right? You are the straight man. You are. Which one was the Laurel and Hardy? Who's the fat one? Was it Laurel?
Who was the fat one? Was the skinny one.
Stan Laurel was the skinny one.
Oliver was the heavy one. Yeah.
Oliver was a fat guy. So I'll be Oliver, obviously, and you could be my straight man.
That's fine. I don't mind that role at all. It pays for Eugene Levy for many, many years.
That's right. And you know what? We'll do a little trade-off. Maybe I can come do some color on a soccer game one day.
Love that.
And you know, I promise not to curse.
Well, I was going to say we'll have to talk about the language.
Yeah, I was talking we had Thomas Rongan, who was my coach in college.
Yeah, I know Thomas.
Thomas has been here in the studio. Matter of fact, I still got his official dirt from RFK Stadium in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Before they tore it down. I have a bottle of the dirt where the DC United played that he left here, and I got to give it back to him for a price. I suppose I can charge him postage fee. But anyway, guys, I'm so glad you guys did the show today. I'm glad to see that, Phil, you're still out in the woods and looking for.
Yeah, glad to see you're safe out of COVID there.
Yes.
You look exactly the same. Yeah. I thought, did you lose any weight?
Yeah, I did. Wow. Hold on a second. The judges have a recount on the joke.
I've been wanting a new couch in from Licorice. Thanks, man. Phil. Appreciate that.
Hey, I'm definitely not the likable candidate.
I don't think anybody wins that award.
That's right, Dave. You have won the couch, actually, and we're going to send the Licorice to Phil here. But thank you guys for being on the show. Let me start with you, Phil. Obviously, where can they find you? Where can our listeners find you and get to know more about Phil Kopsinski?
Oh man, well, look me up. But if you really want to check out my comedy specials on Dry Bar Comedy, it's called Full Grown Man. and check that out. It's totally clean. You can watch it in front of kids and everything. I won't even say pussy.
You'll be thinking it though.
I didn't. Yeah, I was thinking it the whole time. Yeah. I'm actually like.
So you did a dry bar special.
Yeah, it came out in January or February. So
nice. How many views?
Yeah, I filmed it. Say what?
How many views?
Not a lot. Not enough. It hasn't really. They've not nearly. I'm not even in the like 1 million club, which is kind of their.
Maybe you should have said pussy. Maybe that would have helped. Actually, Dave, if you don't know. If you don't know, Dave, the Dry Bar is a comedy. You do the comedy in Salt Lake City, Utah, in front of a group of Mormons.
Provo, so it's like ultra Mormon. Yeah,
I've been to Provo. It's gorgeous there. But yes, you're right. That's the home of BYU, so it'll be more conservative.
Yeah. You can't use drug references. You have to be pretty squeaky clean, which means I got to write a whole 30-something minutes to get on that show. But nevertheless, we'll check out the Phil's Dry Bar special and help get his numbers up. We really would appreciate that. And Dave, where can we find you?
Well, right now I'm on Facebook Live Monday and Friday at 12 o'clock doing a show called A Nooner with Dave Lamont. It's about 20, 25 minutes of whatever is going on. It's not all sports related, primarily, of course. And then I've added Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, about 5 minutes commentary called the Almost Daily Dave. And tried to do it on YouTube Live. Didn't realize that there were 7,000 things I had to accomplish. So that is also on Facebook.
Wow.
And it's crazy. I need to get a high school student in here who has way more knowledge about that than me and way more viewers than I do, and get that fixed. But that's where I am right now. I don't know where else I'll be come the fall. Be honest with you.
Well, good luck to you guys, and hope you guys keep weathering this COVID storm. And do well. And for everybody out there watching us, we thank you for watching and joining us here on Tuesdays, 8 p.m. every week, Eastern time, on our channel here on the Wake Up Late with Dougie show and on Gonzo Radio. We will be back next week. And by the way, we're real excited. Number one, Jen Hellman, my normal co-host, will be joining me again. She set up her studio at home. So she'll be joining me now, starting again. We got next week, I believe we got Alex Elkin coming in from the Northwest. He's going to be doing our show next week. And I'm real excited, too, because it's funny how you get to know people. One of the great things about doing TV or your comedy, you end up meeting a bunch of people you thought you would never end up meeting, just because of associations. And we're excited, too. In 2 weeks on the show, we're going to have Tom Dresden, who's a comedy icon legend, actually part of the Brat Pack, will be through mutual friends. I got to speak to him. And when you reach out to somebody and they reach back, you're like, holy shit. they probably think I'm somebody else. But he'll be joining us, and a lot of great guests will be coming here on the show on Tuesdays, guys. And also, if you could follow us on Twitter at Wake Up Dougie, and also follow us on Instagram at Wake Up Dougie Show. And you can follow me at Instagram and on Twitter at Dougie Dangerous. Thanks, guys, again for joining us. Be well, stay safe, and God bless everybody. Take care. We'll see you all soon.
Take care.
Later, Dougie.
Everybody wake up.
Time to wake up. Time to start the day. Wake up late with Dougie. He is the only way.
Wake up late. Now everybody. Wake up late. Everybody. Wake up late. Wake up late.
Wake up.
Wake up late with Dougie. Wake up late with Dougie. Wake up late with Dougie.
It's time to wake up.
Wake up late with Dougie. What rhymes with Dougie? He's just so funny.
It's the Wake Up Late with Dougie show, live from Danger Studios. Coral Springs, and now you know
we're the hottest show in this
Wake
place.
up late.
Now